Hi everyone. Today we'll be talking about what are recommendation systems, and we will try to understand the basic concepts of recommendation systems. This blog is particularly for beginners who are starting off with recommendation systems. So let's get started. So basically, whatever app you are using, be it Instagram, LinkedIn, Amazon, Flipkart, or even your shopkeepers, the nearby shopkeepers, recommendation systems are everywhere. Like eventually on LinkedIn, you must be seeing that people you may know. On Instagram, you are getting some suggested reels. On e-com website like Amazon, you must be seeing that people who bought X also bought Y, etc. Even in your local stores, people are like the folks are have arranged items that are related to each other closer. So, like for example, you won't find biscuits aligning with soaps, right? So, everywhere recommendation systems are existing, and it's very essential that we should also know about it, the basics of recommendation systems. So, let's get started. So, in this particular vlog, we will be discussing about what are recommender systems, basic terminologies, type of recommendations, algorithms, baseline algorithms, basically, and the common issues. So, let's get started. What is a recommender system? It is a system that suggests relevant items to a user from a list of items. So, like it can be the case that we can have lakhs and lakhs of product, like for example Amazon, and eventually it is trying to suggest you a few items depending upon your taste, depending upon your geography. Now, there can be multiple factors behind that suggestion. So, by relevance, we mean that the products that have been suggested by Amazon have a higher chance of consumption by the user as compared to others. So, I have written a few examples that you can go through. E-com like Amazon has million products. Now, it can't show you all the products. It need to have some sort of a ranked list. Similarly, on Instagram also we have millions of reels that are posted every day. Now, eventually, which reels should come on your feed is personalized for you. So before moving ahead, we now understand what our recommender system. We will now move on to understand some basic terminologies. So the first one is domain. So what is getting recommended to the user? The type of recommendation is called as a domain. Like for example, Netflix is recommending movie to you. So the domain is movies. Spotify is recommending songs to you. So the domain is music. Purpose. So what is the intention behind this recommendation? So basically the whole idea is behind purpose only. So what the purpose of business who is recommending you items has a different purpose as compared to the purpose that user is coming on the platform. So assuming Netflix again, assume that they are recommending you some XYZ movies. So the basic idea, the purpose of the business is that the customer gets retained on the Netflix app. Second is customer pays for the subscription. So this is the purpose of the business. Now on the other hand, the customer wants recommendation because he she wants to watch some movies or entertainment. So the purpose of the customer is different as compared to the business. Now the major purpose of most of the business revolves around two terms. I think these two terms you will be hearing a lot. That is engagement, retaining user on the app for as long as possible. That Instagram does very well. So you must have observed yourself that you are scrolling through reels, and like eventually you will figure out that you have spent like 15 or 20 or even half an hour just scrolling through memes. So, and conversion, get the user pay for subscriptions or buy some items. So if you're using Spotify, you must be getting some constant ads like to buy this Spotify premium. So basically, the basic purpose of any business is around these two factors, engagement and conversion. Now what is conversion path? To get the user to pay or to convert, there is usually a sequence of steps that every user follows. For example, considering Amazon and e-com website, so I think it's comparatively easier. Such there is a user who comes on the platform, assume him to be user A. He searches for the item, adds it to the cart, and makes a payment. So here you can see that he follows a sequence of three steps to reach to the pay to get converted. This is the conversion path for him. Now, for a different user, the conversion path can look something like this. He searches an item, clicks on the related items, compare them, add all to the cart, then eventually drop a few of the items, and then buy after 3 days. So, as said, conversion path can be different for different users. Feedback. This is the data we get from the user to understand his or her behavior. Now, this feedback is very important. It can be of two types: explicit feedback, information we get directly from the user, like you ask the user to rate or review some product that he has bought, or implicit feedback. So, most of the time, if you know, like the response rate for ratings and reviews is very, very low because in return, the user is getting nothing. So, usually, implicit feedbacks comes into the picture where we are depending upon the user behavior. We're trying to extract some information, like for example time spent on the app, click on particular page, click on hyperlink. Like for example, if the user is spending more time on the app, that means like this is some information that can be used to make some inference. Proxy goal. How good are the recommendations? So basically, the proxy goals are basically the goals set up by the business to analyze, okay, are the recommendation made by systems good or bad? Now this can be very direct. For example, you ask the reviews from the customer is giving good reviews, and eventually get, okay, my recommendations are good, but most of the time the response rate is usually low. So in that case, implicit feedback that I talked about earlier can be used as a proxy goal. For example, Netflix recommends you some good movies. The team might assume that the time spent on those recommended movies would be comparatively more as compared to the movies that are not recommended, right? This can be the proxy goal for Netflix. So it can be the case that Netflix might be measuring the time spent on movies that the Netflix system is recommending. So this becomes a proxy goal for them. Similarly, if Spotify is suggesting you some new song that you haven't heard, so Spotify might be keeping a track of how long you are listening to the song. Are you putting it into some playlist, or are you listening it on loop? And that can be the proxy goal for Spotify to analyze, okay, our recommendations are good. What is the context? So basically, what factors are affecting the recommendation for a user? Now these factors form the context of the whole recommendation and helps in making more personalized recommendations. For example, if you have been using Uber or Ola or even Rapido in India, so when you must have noticed that during office times, we get a surge price in Uber, listing a higher price, right? When it is office timings or like weather is very bad. So factors like office timing, weather forms are forming the context here, and the suggested or the recommended price is slightly higher. Even at times, like assume that you visit Goa, so in that case, you might like the food delivery apps like Swiggy or Zomato may start recommending you local cuisine as compared to your usual paneer and roti. So this is just to give you an example. Ki depending upon the context, recommendations can change. Talking about personas, so artificial users generated by the business to understand how the recommendation works in the real world. So for example, assume that one of the personas can be a person who loves cricket, watches any new movie trailer, but in general doesn't listen to songs. So this is, I'm talking about YouTube persona. So it can be the case that the YouTube team must have created some artificial persona, artificial people with different tastes, so that eventually they can study, okay, how they are behaving, and then they can tune up their recommendation system. Similarly, they can be a second person who is interested in scientific stuff alongside rock music but hates English songs. So these are certain artificial personalities that companies develop so that they can test and trial their recommendation systems. The last one being weighted events. So basically, implicit feedback, as I told you, can be of multiple types. Like you are measuring the time spent on the app, click rate, click on hyperlink, etc. Now, each of these event might not have the same weightage as others. Like for example, if a person is explicitly typing the name of a product and searching about it, it should have a higher weightage as compared to the person just clicking on the tab of the particular product once he sees. So it can be the case that so in the first case he just wants that product. That is why the weight of such events would be higher as compared to the other way around. Hence, all the events that we are capturing in implicit feedback might not have the same weightage. So these are some basics that we must know before jumping onto recommendation systems. Now coming to what are different types of recommendations. So basically, there are four types of recommendations that we'll be talking about. Non-personalized. Such recommendations are common to every visiting user. Like for example, Amazon's top-selling product. So the top-selling product won't change for you as compared to some other guy X. It will remain same for everyone. Spotify original exclusive playlist. So if you have seen the Spotify app, so there is a particular playlist that Spotify is suggesting to all the users. These are not personalized playlists, and it is generally for all the users. Semi-personalized segment personalization. So such recommendations are not at individual level but at segment level. So like for example, such personalization can be dependent upon age, gender, location of a person. So if you have some news app on your phone, you must have noticed that you are getting prompts for the regional news and not other news. So like for example, if you are in Rajasthan in India, you might not be getting you might not be getting article recommendations for news from Uttar Pradesh or like from Tamil Nadu, for example, right? So you must be getting a personal. You must be getting regional news article recommendation, because this is semi-personalized recommendation. E-com app have filters like age and price, that is also semi-personalized because they're trying to personalize depending upon the segment you are falling into. Third one is personalized. So this is what most of the apps are doing nowadays, especially the social media apps, like for example Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Where, like I gave you an example initially, Instagram Reels. So depending upon your taste, depending upon your historic activities, majorly, Instagram is recommending you personalized reels. So the reels that you are getting in your feed is not, so someone else is not getting those reels. They are getting a different set of reels depending upon their taste. Now the fourth one is opinion based. So basically, you must have heard of editor choice in Play Store. So these recommendations are also non-personalized and basically expert curated recommendations that are done. So the editor choice in Play Store is the most common example for opinion based. Now, moving on to the algorithms for recommendation systems. So basically, on a baseline, we have three major algorithms for recommendation system, and fourth one is basically a data mining algorithm. So we'll be talking about that. First one is content-based recommendations, item similarity. So the whole idea of content-based recommendations is that eventually, if a user has seen XYZ items on the app, we will try to figure out similar items from to those XYZ, and then we will try to recommend him the similar items to XYZ. So if, like for example, you have been into action movies on Netflix, you have watched a Mission Impossible, Fast X, Transformers, and all. So eventually, if they are implementing content-based recommendation, you would be getting recommendation for similar action movies only. Now, a problem is very evident. The user might get bored of watching all the action movies continuously. Also, there would come a time then when the whole stock will get exhausted. So you need to have some freshness in between when you're giving a recommendation. So this is a problem that is facing content-based recommendation. Second type of recommendation is collaborative filtering. I think these are terms very common for recommendation, and you must have heard of it. So basically, this is based on the idea of user similarity. So first of all, what we'll do is that depending upon the historical activities of multiple users, we'll try to figure out similar users. So it can be the case that some user is buying XYZ item and some user is buying WXY item. So eventually, we'll try to form some sort of an embedding and try to figure out similarity between the users. Now, once we figure out that okay, user A and B are similar, what we will do is that we will suggest all the items that user A has shown interest into, but user B hasn't faced them yet. So any item that user A has taken, we'll start recommending to user B and vice versa. So collaborative filtering works on user based similarity, and content based filtering works on item based similarity. Now again, collaborative filtering, the problem is that it requires a lot of data, and it also completely avoids the content similarity. Now, third one being hybrid. So, as you have seen that both content and collaborative filtering have some issues. Hybrid comes to be a combination of content and collaborative filtering that produces the final recommendation. So, we will be talking about all these algorithms in my coming blog. It is just an introductory post on recommendation system to get started. Associated rule based mining. So, this is a very interesting, very common, very popular data mining algorithm, association rules, where which can be proved to be a great tool when you're trying to design non-personalized recommendation systems. We try to figure out if someone buys A, whether he or she would buy item B also or not. Hence, whether an association between A given B given A exists or not. So, if we are able to figure out that okay, there is an association between A and B. So eventually, once a person buys A, we will implicitly mean that he can buy B also, and we will start recommending him B also. So this is a bit complex. I have covered this before in one of my posts, so I have dedicated a whole post on association rules. So you can check it out how it is getting calculated using the a priori algorithm in one of my videos. Now, last part. So one of them. So this in this part, we'll be talking about some common problems that a recommendation system faces. So first one is the cold start problem. When an item or a user is new to the platform, what to suggest to that particular user becomes difficult because we have no information about the user. Right. Similarly, for new items, when a new item is getting introduced, uh, it has zero interaction from the user base that is present on the app. So eventually, in that case, how to promote that item and this item should be promoted to which users. So basically, this is called as cold start problem. Eventually, cold start is used for both new items and new users, but cold products is used for new items specifically. Now, the last one being gray sheep. So, it is a user who has a very exquisite taste, very unique taste, and in the database we don't have many such users, and also is not very active. So, to gather data about him is becoming difficult. So, this is called as a gray sheep. So, basically, there are three major problems that you might face: cold start because of a new user joining the platform; cold products when a new item is introduced; and gray sheep, a user with a very unique taste. So basically, this post was all about what to know, what are the basics of recommendation system, what you should know once you're first time reading recommendation system. And this blog will be my go-to blog when I will be discussing about some complex recommendation systems like NCF, Deep FM, wide and deep learning, etc.